Hey, friends.
Welcome to our very first episode of the Cosmic Compass. I'm
Yay.
Jen, or Jen
And I'm
Jen.
Liz.
Where's the camera at? Right here. Right here is my name. This is going to be a goofy first episode, but hopefully you guys enjoy it. Like, I think we're going to have a lot of fun. So,
Agreed.
yeah. All right, so let's get started. We're going to do some introductions. Liz, let's start with you.
Yay. Well, I feel like my story kind of goes off of your story.
Oh, so should I tell
Um,
my story first?
well, kind of, but I don't think it really matters. But um, because I feel like I've kind of always been drawn to like a more spiritual connection, but just never really like connected it.
Mhm.
Um, and because like if you're not careful, it can get like real weird and culty.
Yeah.
And so you're like, hey, not really what I'm striving to do. And it took me up until very recently to realize that it doesn't have to be that crazy. Um, but I can also see how it gets there, right? And so that kind of brings me into what I was talking about, how my story kind of goes off of your story, because I didn't really get it until like you and I started having more conversations.
Mhm.
So I guess I'll just kind of go into that, kind of segues right into how we met. So
Yeah.
Jen and I used to work in the same office together, and she was fairly new. I've been there for like 100 years. And yeah, so just over the course of time, very slowly we would have like little conversations or whatever, and
Yeah.
you would like say these little things. I'm like, yes, I love that. That's yes, right? That makes so much sense. And when I really just started even like conceptualizing it as something actually real and tangible,
Mhm.
um, and really it started out with like manifesting and things like that. I was like, wow, you know what? Like to me at that time it was like what I call my hell or high water moments, where no matter what happens, I'm going to achieve this. Like I'm not going to let anything stand in my way. And really what I was doing was focusing intention, and I don't want to go too far down that rabbit
Yeah.
hole, but that was kind of where I started kind of connecting those dots, was
Mhm.
the conversations that you and I would have about things going on. And then not shortly after that, I had this like aha moment on a road trip where like I really got it.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing just came full circle, and I was like had this moment of like just release.
Mhm.
Like, and it came out of nowhere. I wasn't even thinking about anything in particular. I just like started getting like all these overwhelming feelings, and just like again just kind of like connected for the first time. And it was just mind blowing. And so that's when we kind of decided, hey, like I came back and like told the whole thing, and you were like, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then we started having these really interesting conversations, and I was like, wow, this is like some really good stuff. Like we should like tell people about this. Like we have these like really in-depth conversations,
Oh, yeah. And I just wanna add, like, I kinda kicked myself in the ass a little bit because I when we really started talking, this was, like, a little over a year of me being in this building, and I kinda kicked myself in the ass because it's like, had I not been so, I guess, introverted, like, we could have been had these conversations, but at the same time, we know that, everything happens for a reason. I wasn't quite there in my spiritual journey like I was when me and you started actually, like, deep diving into this stuff, so, I mean, I guess it just all kinda happened it's just proof that everything happens the way it's
And I mean,
intended.
I know I can be a lot. So
No, it wasn't that. It's just that with me being, in a brand new unit and completely out of my element, like I was literally
yeah.
going through a lot of shit. And I mean, honestly, it's not as much shit as I've been going through like this year because I've been like the ringer and back this year for some reason. The universe has just been sending me little assignments and I was failing for a little bit, but we got there. But yeah, I think like I said, it's just proof that everything happens the way it's intended. Like there is a plan.
Yeah, and I mean, and we kind of picked up on that like right away, where we started seeing like a lot of commonalities like in our lives and how we got there and things like that, that we were just like, that's way too coincidental
Yeah.
to not mean something for sure.
And I think the biggest indicator, I know we're kind of bouncing around, like we haven't even really gotten into like where my spiritual journey was, but I think the biggest indicator for me was I think this was before you moved or right after you moved. I know we talked about it, that dream that I had where I was looking for the center of the universe. And I'm
Hmm.
not talking about Fort Bragg for you military people, we call that the center. I'm talking about like the actual looking for the center of the universe. And for some reason, I could find it on Google Maps. And for some reason, the center of the universe just happened to be in Kansas. And
Yeah.
I saw my Reiki master like shortly after, and she's like, well, duh. Like, obviously, you and Liz have some sort of a connection, and like, that's where she's going, or that's where you are. Like I said, I can't remember, but that was
Yeah.
like the biggest indicator that we are definitely like spiritually connected, and like, we have to get this thing going. And we wanted to do this a while ago, but life got in the way, and I'm so excited to like finally be able to do this with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. This has been, kind of a long time coming, definitely a couple of months in the making. And we both have just been, like you said, life just kind of gets in the way, but
Yeah.
we're here now,
We
which
are
is
here now.
probably right where we're supposed to be. So
Exactly, because everything, the universe has a plan, and we can't force nature. And I think that's what a lot of people are guilty of, including myself. We try to force things to happen, but it's like those things weren't meant to happen. Like, things or people were taken away from you for a reason, and you trying to force like relationships or friendships, what have you, like, you're not supposed to force things. Everything's going to align the way it's supposed to, as long as you're doing the work to tap into your higher self.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I guess I'll just give a quick rundown of my journey. My spiritual journey actually started right before I moved to New York. There's people I was following on TikTok, and they're very spiritual, and I didn't really understand, but I was like, oh, like, this sounds interesting, and I'm like trying to open my eyes and ears and my soul to like all these things. But then it wasn't until the beginning of this year, I dealt with a lot of adversity, I guess, and started getting sick, and I just kind of really down in the dumps type of thing. And it wasn't until like I was just like, man, like, I'm at like a, I guess, a rut, a T intersection. Like, I don't know which way to go, because I'm stuck spiritually. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm brand new to all this. And so I found the our Reiki master, me and Liz both share, because Lori's awesome. Shout out to
She's
Lori.
amazing.
I started out with her, and just that initial experience was just fucking mind blowing, because especially someone like me who's kind of skeptical, you're like, I'm going to see if this is actually true. So after my very first session with her, I'm like, I'm going to let her speak first, because I know what I saw. Like, spoiler alert, I have visions, and this is what this kind of represents back there. I guess I'll explain that in a little bit. But anyways, so I was having visions during the Reiki session, and I'm like, I'm going to wait. I have to hear what she says first to see if she's like the real deal. And I was having visions of different warriors in different eras, and they were very vivid. And this is the first time I've ever had like real vivid visions. And she's telling me the things that she felt and sensed and what she saw. She said that Saint Michael has a very high presence around me. um like, there's a lot of times where I should have died and I wasn't, because I'm being protected. I'm like, well, that's kind of true. But that could be true for just about anybody. So I'm just like, uh-huh, tell me more. And it wasn't until she said, in your past lives, you have a lot of past life history of being a warrior of some point. And I was just like, mind fucking blown. And I was like, she's the real deal. And like, I think that was what really sparked it for me. And then introducing Liz and saying, hey, like, this is who you should go see. And we kind of went on this little spiritual journey, honestly, together, because even though I say like I started mine last year, it wasn't really until this year where I really actually got into it, because I kind of started actually figuring out what I was supposed to do. I was being misguided before, and I was finally getting the guidance that I needed, to include, Hallie. Big shout out to Hallie, all the work that me and her have done the past few months, and here I am.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
great.
no, I think that I think having, and again, this is what I was kind of talking about before with how I can see where things, when you get into this type of lifestyle, really is what it is, um just when you start talking about these types of viewpoints and things like that, how you really want to create like a community of like minds, right? We do that, like attracts like, and we'll get
Mhm.
more into that in later episodes, but uh so I think that's kind of what got us kind of like fired up and excited about it, was that like people need to know about this, right? Like people need to, and some of the things that were happening to me on a 3D level, once I kind of like clicked in and figured it out, um, were little things like the office that you met me in.
Mhm.
Like I was hiding like a recluse in there,
Yeah.
and I was not very inviting into my space, and it was evident by just a lot of different things, the way it's set up, and just the way that like, you know, I was in there, and it wasn't a big space, and then, like, I had this, like, awe-inspiring moment, and I actually, like, fought for that office, remember?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was like a whole thing, and but, like, the office I had before that was, like, deep in the corner, and, like,
Mhm.
then I had this, like, revelation, and where, like, I felt this pull to kinda step into the light, if you will, or out of the shadows, I guess, might be a better, like, interpretation of that, and we did. We wound up sharing an office that actually had a window,
Yeah, yeah.
and we created this, like, really positive vibe space, like, you could just feel it, and it was really funny how it wound up being, like, the epicenter of our entire office suite, like, everybody wound up just coming in there to the point where sometimes her and I were like, "What you're doing in here is not relevant to anything
Yeah.
else that's going on in this office. Could you please find somewhere else to have your meeting?" Because, like, but that's kind of the energy that we created in that room, and I think that's where, um at least for me, that's kind of where things started to take off. But I think too is because we were kind of having these like constant conversations about it, and it was really easy to like stay connected. Um, a lot of that I think has to do with like our cosmic, or when I say galactically connected, um, really fostered an environment for that to grow, to the point where when I left, um, I felt a lot different. Like I went from this place where I was starting to, and I attribute a lot of this to you because you're the one that kind of like ignited that flame, but it really did start to attract all of these really great people into my life. And then I left, and I left all of it. And it was like, you feed off that energy, you do, like, and then like, but we all give and take, and it like
Mhm.
just, flows. And then like I was just alone, and kind of disconnected. And it's taken me, I've been here now for what, like 2 months, couple
Yeah.
months, something like that. And I'm finally starting to like, get back in there and rely more on myself, um to foster that environment, and getting back into the swing of things. But yeah, there for a while it was like, where did all my like light and love go? It's gone,
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, the crazy thing about, like, all of that is because, like, everything did shift, like, in the office environment too, like, I was just kinda like, "Man, I don't want anybody else in here," because people are in and out type of thing, and it's like, "Fuck," like, I just don't want anybody in here, it's not the same vibes anymore, and I started kind of going, I guess, I don't wanna say dropping a level, but I was kinda getting into that funk again, and I'm like, "Man, like, the dynamics completely changed," and then watching you, and I'm like, "Hold on a second, buddy," like, I watched this dip, and then just to see you back up here, like, I was completely off screen up here. But to watch
over
that
there.
just to watch that dip and then to see you climb back up, like, it's been amazing, like, even watching, when you quote unquote awoken, when we first started talking, like it's such a pleasure to watch. And like that's I guess we're kind of segueing into like what, our I guess our goals kind of are with this show is, we want others to experience that enlightenment and be able to see like those aha moments because I'm telling you like watching somebody go through that, it's hard for me to really put into words like what kind of like joy and love and light that like actually fulfills me with. That kind of
Yeah.
sounds selfish, but like, I mean,
No,
honestly,
but
that's
it's
what it
not
was.
for you, but it kind of goes back to what I was saying before about how like what was going on in our office was not just between you and I. It
Yeah.
radiated out, to where I felt like it really affected the whole outlook of the entire office. And again, it could be as easy as life is a mirror. And we were sending out like these good vibes and just good energy. And so that's what we were getting back.
Hmm.
But then in turn, everyone else starts sending out good vibes. And then that's what they get back. And it really just does foster an environment for just, you know, a very easy flowing, you know, positive, just chill place. And like, let's be honest, the place that we work is not really foster that kind of
No.
energy. And so it was just really great to see. And it wasn't that we were doing anything like it wasn't like we were chanting in the office and doing like weird
Yeah.
shit. Like we were just honestly healing ourselves and working through that, and by sharing those experiences, it drew people into like, even people who I think were kind of skeptical and thought we were crazy.
Yeah.
I think you take a little bit with you, and it makes you maybe rethink situations, um that for the betterment of everybody. So I don't think it's a selfish thing to say. I mean, it's great that it makes you feel good, but like it in turn is making others feel good too. So it's not self-serving. It's full circle.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely full circle. Like and I think that's like one of my big goals is just to try to influence as many people as possible to like go on this journey because I'm not trying to bring politics into the show at all, but there's just so much good and evil going on, mostly evil in the world, and we have to find a way to like spread the love and light to overtake that nastiness is infecting our world right now.
Agreed. Yep. And it's not something that's like some big, revolution or anything like that. It's just one person at a time. And I don't like that's why I said sometimes like these things get kind of like, what are you talking about here? Like, what are you guys really trying to do? But really all we're trying to do is show people that life is what you make it. And again, we're going to say I think a lot, at least for me, a lot of kind of cliche statements, but words have meanings. And when you really break down these, you know things that people say or you've heard 1,000 times, and you're like, for example, like words have meanings, um it really does change your outlook. But it's more of, like you had mentioned, more of like an awakening more than it is an outlook. It's really
Hmm.
it feels more like, once it all clicks, it feels more like somebody took your blinders off, and you're like, "Oh, this is really what the world is like, or this is really what life can be like." Like,
Hmm.
this is crazy. There's no way it's this easy. Like, ask and you shall receive, or you reap what you sow, or
Right.
like all of those things are really just, uh, you know, really simple concepts to life that if you really take those words at for what they mean, it's like, oh shit.
Well, and I think that's because like our ancestors, like they knew the secrets. Like this isn't something that like was just created in the
Oh no,
year 2022.
absolutely.
Like this is
Right.
something that's been going on for centuries. And the problem is like, obviously people have, they words lose meaning sometimes because they get overused or they get used the wrong way. And then of course, when we'll talk about this at some point, but with all of the um what's the word I'm looking for? The over chemicalization. It's just
It's a word. Just go
over
with it.
the over chemical I can't even say it now. But with all the shit that they're putting into our foods and we're putting into our bodies, as I say that as I'm drinking Mountain Dew, but it what's happening is it calcifies your pituitary gland. And what people don't understand is the how important your pituitary gland actually is. Like your pituitary gland is known to be like your link to the universe, your third eye. So there are products out there which, like I said, we'll talk about it in a later episode of like how to decalcify your pituitary gland to help you see. Because I'm telling you, like once you start opening your eyes, you're gonna start looking at people and be like, and people are gonna think that Jen is crazy, but it's fine. But you're gonna start looking at people and be like, is that a real person or is that an NPC, like a video game? But like legit, like that's how you start looking at people is like, are they real? Because they literally the people are just walking around like they're robots and they just go through the motions and you start
And
picking up on those things and you're like, hold up.
oh, hello, wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up. And yeah, and also what the shifts that happen in your life and how and I can't remember now who kind of said it, because I've been learning from, just so many different outlets, but how when you start to vibrate on a level that's different from someone else, it's odd how all of a sudden they just kind of like bounce away and are distracted by something else.
Yeah.
And like there's no love lost there as far as like you're like, "Oh wow, yeah, what happened to that guy? Like I didn't even notice." And it's just because you're not, and again, another saying that you hear all the same time, we're just not vibing on the same level.
Yeah.
And like that really does mean something. And it really does affect the things that start to wind up getting bounced out of your space and the things that wind up getting drawn in. And it's amazing. It's incredible how really little effort like it takes. It's just something that starts to become like, you start to become more aware
Hmm.
is really, I feel like what it is. And I think going back to what you were saying before about, we just have gotten so caught up in the like the world just keeps moving faster and faster and faster that like nobody has time to stop and smell the roses, right? And like it disconnects you from the universe and like just how simple things can really be. It's crazy. It's just
Yeah.
crazy.
And I have so many examples just from this year of where people are no longer in alignment with me. Like that's how I phrase it. I mean, however you want to phrase it, whether we're vibing on the same level or whether they're in alignment. I have so many examples of where people are no longer in alignment with me and I just kind of old Jen would have been like, "Why? No, don't leave me. Like I need you in my life and I'm so mad at you for doing this or that to me." But now I'm just like, we're just not in alignment and that's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe one day in the future we'll be in alignment and we can pick up where we left off and we can vibe together. But in the meantime, like if you and I are not in alignment, then I just don't want you in my space because I'm riding this high right now. Like if that's how you want to phrase it.
Right, right.
It's
Yeah,
crazy. And the
exactly.
thing is like people have to realize and I hope this is like one of the takeaways that people take from our show is that we are all connected. It's just a matter of what frequency you're vibrating at on if you guys are actually in alignment. So like all of us are connected by the universe like we'll never understand it completely, but if you start down this journey and you'll start to understand it a little bit and understand that how we are literally connected to everything. Like I'm connected to the trees outside, I'm connected to a tree all the way in Ohio. Like we are connected through everything and everyone. I had a brain fart for
Yeah.
a second.
Well, and we could get like really technical and quantum physicsy about it, but like it really just kind of boils down to like um I was listening to Dr. Robert Anthony, and he talks about the, quantum physics side of it and how like we're all made of the same molecules, right? We're all made of energy.
Hmm.
Energy cannot be made, right? It just is. It's and so like the reason that things seem real to us is because of a collective consciousness that deems that thing real. So if we weren't connected, then everybody's reality would be different. But because we all do live in a common reality, right? As far as like a chair is a chair and a table is a table and a tree is a tree,
Mhm.
right? It's because we all believe that that's a tree and
Right.
we all believe that that's a chair and that so therefore that's what makes it a chair.
Mhm.
And so it's hard not to say that we're not
Right.
connected, you know?
Wh- and it's funny, like when it comes to realities, because yes, common realities, obviously, like you know that Jen is sitting in a black and white gamer chair, like unless you're colorblind, no offense, colorblind. But when it comes to like as far as like other like what's so would it be perceptual reality, where the way people perceive like events. Prime example,
Yeah.
go on to TikTok and look at just about any TikTok drama, and you can have the evidence literally right in front of you. So, for example, let's say this dog bit a cat. You saw the dog bite a cat, but the people that are pro cat are going to be like, no, the cat did not, or pro cat are going to say, yeah, the dog bit the cat, and the cat didn't do anything to antagonize the dog. But the people that are pro dog were like, no, the dog did not bite the cat. The cat stuck its paw in the dog's mouth. It's crazy to me watching these people everywhere. It's not just TikTok, but I'm just saying if you go on the app, you'll definitely see it. But it's just crazy to me how literally you can watch two different realities happening at the same time, especially if you're awake. Because when you're awake, you're like, hold on a second. Like you're saying something completely different than what this person's saying, but like here in the middle, like this is what actually happened. Like, we'll go back to the dog cat thing. No, it wasn't a dog that bit the cat. It was actually a bird that bit the cat or something stupid. You know what I mean? Like what the actual reality is. It's just,
Yeah.
I hope I explained that right. Like that was kind of like a really weird ass fucking analogy, but that was like the best way for me to explain like the perceptual realities that are going on right now because we're not vibrating at the same frequency.
Yeah. I mean, and I think you could boil that down to a lot of different scenarios as
Mhm.
far as like even just like again, I'm gonna be so cliche this whole
I
episode,
love
but
it.
even things like, your half empty, half full glass analogies, right?
Mhm.
It's a really simplistic way to just describe, how people can perceive things differently,
Mhm.
right? If I perceive something, we could be sitting in the same room. For example, um, we went away on AT one year for like our umpteenth bajillion time to like the same place to do the same shit. And everybody's all like, oh man, this sucks. I'm gonna miss out on this and I'm gonna this and
Mhm.
oh man, it's just gonna suck. And I'm like, or it could not suck.
There
Or
you
we could
go.
really just make the best out of what we have, right?
Mhm.
Where we have one job right now, right? It's just to go out and play this game and come back,
Mhm.
right? And anyway, just putting what you would call a positive spin on it, right? And to the point where there was someone there that was like, "Wow, you're really annoying."
Oh my god.
And I was like, "It's cool, sir. You'll get there."
Yeah.
Right? And at the end, he was like and what I explained to him is I was like, "I am way up here because it's not because everybody else you can't even see me, I'm that low. I'm off screen, right? Is way down here. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to bring everybody up here,
Mhm.
right? And so the more I'm up here and I hype that energy, I might get a lot of you to like here,
Yeah.
right? And then at the end, when I started to lose like my umph and gum.
Sorry about that, you guys.
So I forgot even what I was talking about now. Um,
I lost it too. You left me for so long,
I know it was
but it
terrible.
but it's
It was
okay.
terrible.
It gives for a good, I guess segue for the Spotify listeners so we can add in a commercial, like I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what were we talking about? We kind of I mean, this is what we do. We kind of bounce all over the place a little bit.
We do, but I remember I was talking about, oh, right.
AT.
So
Then
bringing people
yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There we go.
So towards the end, when everybody just started really kind of dying off, uh, they kind of like the tables turned and were trying to pick me up. And towards the end, the guy in the beginning who was like, "You're really annoying," was like, "I get it now. I get it now." And so, like, that's just kind of like what we're trying to do, right? Is
Yeah.
that like you can vibe on this level, and we're trying to like get you up there to where like it just doesn't have to be that hard.
No, not at
It
all.
doesn't have to be that hard. And, like, once you figure that out, like, it's so funny how you like, look back and you'll be like, "Oh, dang,
Yeah.
I really did make this hard." And a lot of it was because I chose to view things just in a more negative way. And I know that sounds like that's way too simple, sounds really cheesy, like, you can't just change the way you do things, but you can. And when you
Absolutely.
do and you start to see how that really impacts your life, I think that's the most mind-blowing thing. I think that's what pumps me up and really, like, gets me excited about talking about this. And I think that's a one thing that I've been so excited about doing this podcast because it's like the one place
Mhm.
where we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours because
Yeah.
we all have the gift of gab. And but it's like what people want to talk about. It's like what people want to hear about. Where like sometimes you try to talk to people about it who just like aren't there yet,
Mhm.
and they're like, yeah, and they
Yeah.
kind of just get distracted and bounce away and aren't listening because they're not there. They're not willing to see it with an open mind and
Yeah.
like like coming here, like you remember I told you about like how effortlessly this whole thing happened
Mhm.
in what, 30 days?
If that, to be honest.
Like I came back what, end of May. So for those of you that catch up on a little backstory, so my husband was out of town. He was in Arizona and he was like, "Hey, why don't you fly out and we'll drive back from Arizona to New York?" So like across the country. And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds like a lot of not fun." Because that's just
Yeah.
only because we didn't have like a lot of time. So it was like
Mhm.
trying to get across the freaking country in 4 days.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a lot of like long time in a car.
Yeah.
Long story short, I went. And in that process, we were trying to decide about career changes and some opportunities that were going to be available to him um, that we had talked about before, but we talked about maybe just, because we have two teenage kids. And so we talked about maybe just living like separately for that time or whatever. And I was finally like, and he was just like, man, I'd really like to take, advantage of this opportunity, but I really don't want to leave my family behind. I wish I could like take advantage of it and be home at the same time. And I was like, done. Like, we'll just sell the house. Fuck it. Like, we'll just
Yeah.
go. And so I fly out there, and over the course of like the 3 or 4 days that it took us to get home, we stopped in Kansas, which is where we wound up moving, where the job opportunity was. And we wound up looking at a house that we fell in love with that was like just in the right location, a good school district for the kids, like all this stuff was lining up. And the only thing that like I couldn't really figure out was like what I was going to do for work because where I was looking to transfer my job, there just weren't any opportunities available at that time. And but we had created this energy in this car that like we were just like just creating,
Mhm.
right? And again, we'll get more into that later, but I mean, man, we were just like making things happen. Like, and so then he's on the computer and he finds me a job. And so we call and they're like, oh my gosh, we've been having such a hard time filling this position. And you're like the most qualified person, like you're overqualified. I mean, it
Mhm.
was incredible.
Yeah.
And then so like we go home, I put the house on the market, it sells in a week. Like so from June to July, we moved halfway back across the country and bought and sold a house in this like crazy ass market
Mhm.
and like everything just fell into place and it was just because like we had such a positive outlook on what we wanted.
Mhm.
And again, it comes to what I used to refer to as my hell or high water moments where I was just like, well, it doesn't really matter. Not gonna worry about the how, get into it in another
Yeah.
episode. And we're just gonna freaking do it. I don't know. It'll work itself out. It's just I'm like, everything is just literally falling into place so
Mhm.
effortlessly. Like, who sells a house in a week and buys and closes in 30 freaking days
Right.
in across the country, you know?
Especially with the economy the way it is right now.
Yeah, and like it was just nuts.
Mhm.
And not to mention the fact that we moved like a small farm
Yeah,
across the way
yeah.
and how all that transpired, how I wound up getting linked up with some dude that I never knew who wound up being instrumental in the whole process.
Mhm.
And he needed something from me and I needed something from him and we were able to do this like old school like, barter trade thing
Yeah.
and everybody made out great on this deal and it was just mind blowing and like the whole 2-day drive to get here was like, "This is so exciting. I can't believe this is happening." And then I got here and then, as we mentioned before, I was like, "Oh, but now I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, what do I do now? I'm in the middle of nowhere."
Yeah, yeah, but a lot of it was mindset. Like, I mean, you
100%.
nailed it 100% on your story. Like, just from you going from Arizona back to New York, like you and your husband, the positive mindset that you guys had, and then you get to Kansas, and I think it was like one little speed bump you hit, and then it just went tumbling down from there because it kind of fucked your
Yeah,
mindset up a
well,
little bit.
it really does. I mean, we bought a house that is a little bit of a fixer-upper on top of, like, trying to set up a farm on the same and then again, we just, life kinda just you get swept up in this, like, riptide of responsibilities. And again, going back to what we were talking about before about how like the world is just spinning too fast, and we get so caught up in all this minutia, that we kind of forget. Oh, hey, wait a second. There's more to life than this. There's really no need to stress out about this or freak out about that or just figure out what you want, set your intention and fucking make it happen or it will just happen,
Yeah.
depending on like what it is. But um and I laugh because when I first got here, I was having all these pay problems and I was experiencing like these like little things that were like, you know, all these big bills from moving needed to be paid, but I'm not getting paid. Like, what the F,
Mhm.
And then I was just like, I did fell back into old habits. You start to stress about it. You start to overthink it. You just like you stew on it and you stew on it and you stew on it and you smother it. And it's like the more you do, the bigger of a problem it becomes. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, hold on a second. Remember your training,
Yeah.
Jedi. Like, like
You
hold
got
on a
this.
second.
You got this, young grasshopper.
Yeah, right. The universe pulled me here. Everything to get here was seamless. Why am I freaking out?
Yeah.
What am I freaking out about? And like seriously, instantaneously, I let it go. And that's like, I don't know, man. It'll just work itself out.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was like, hey, here's your pay stub. You're gonna get paid in like a week. Oh shit.
Yeah.
And I got paid for the whole month. So I had this like giant chunk of money in my bank. I mean, it was kind of pre-spent, but that's not the point.
Right.
Um, and then again, like things just kind of started, falling into place and balancing back out. And I reached back out to Lori and, you know, hell, we didn't even have like an actual like Reiki session. We wound up just kind of like figuring out, where my mindset is
Yeah.
to figure out what we wanted to work on in the future. But like even just talking with her and catching up and, just really I mean, by the time I wound up having the appointment with her, I kind of had figured it out on my own, but it wound up being the universe's plan because, like, it's great to have life coaches and it's great to have healers and it's definitely great to like take advantage of those resources. But at the same time, like, you have to figure out how to rely on you and how to trust your own intuition and like everything like that we'll kind of get into later is that like you have all the answers
Yes.
because like you put yourself here, right? Your higher self was like, hey, listen, I think this time we're gonna try this,
Yeah.
and this is what I'm gonna do. And so once you figure out how to communicate with your higher self and connect with your higher self, and you just say, hey, this is like what I'm trying to do here. This is what I want. This is how, your higher self already knows the path.
Yeah.
And they just kind of like that way, retard, you know. head over there, or
Yeah.
whatever. You should know this.
Yeah.
And um so I guess I kind of like needed that
Yeah.
time to kind of.
Well, I mean, and you're also like we're both very new in our journey. Like that's why our motto is like newbies on a spiritual journey. Like you're not going to be able to do it by yourself right away. Not saying that people can't, but like it's always nice to have just that little nudge from somebody. And like that I think that's kind of what we're hoping with this podcast is to just kind of help nudge people in the right direction to get on that journey and find the right or find some stuff to put in your toolbox to use later so that you can be self-sufficient when it comes to these moments of
Yeah.
assignments from the universe, like I like to call it.
Yeah. I definitely had one. And
Yeah.
there for a while I was like in study hall, like
Yeah. They're
just
like
trying to
they're like
felt like I missed
you failed again. Let's try it again.
felt like I missed that day of lecture and like trying to catch up on my homework.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so again, I'm just like really excited to get this thing started and
Yeah.
uh like you said, just kind of put out a perspective,
Hmm.
and then you can take that whichever direction the universe, takes you off in, but knowing that like, connecting with that source power, energy, whatever you want to call it, the universe, and getting guidance, in whatever way that comes to you. I mean, that like you said, I think that's really all we're trying to achieve is just I hate to use the word enlightenment, but it's kind of
That's
nail on the head
yeah.
word is just awareness that um life can be pretty fucking awesome if you let it.
Yeah. You just gotta let it. And I think we're definitely getting in that right direction. I mean, I'm not. Here's the thing, like I'm. No one's ever going to be 100% healed. Like that's number one. Like, just so you guys know, like part of the spiritual journey is healing from things. Like you could maybe never thought you faced any adversity in your whole entire life, but there's something that you're going to have to heal from, and the healing is never going to be complete. It's just a matter of how you handle like I hate saying this, but your triggers. Like, things are going to trigger you. Like, I get triggered on a daily basis. It's how you handle it. And hopefully, we can give you some tools, to put in your little toolbox. Be like, you know what? That tool didn't work last time. So let me try this one. Get triggered. Have these
Yeah, and I
moments of
think like
contrast.
yeah, and it's just becoming aware of like yourself, right?
Yes.
I have a tendency to do this or to do that, and it helps you navigate, you figure out. I guess I'm not really
No, I mean, you're on the right track.
articulating
Like,
this in a very good way, but
you're
like,
on the right track navigating your emotions. Like you have to figure
yeah,
out sitting in your emotions and finding out what you need, and because your emotions, like your body knows that your body gives you these signs of like, hey, you're lacking in this or you really need that. Your body gives you those signs. It's just a matter of finding what it is that you're lacking.
yeah, and I guess like the more you become aware of what you're doing, it it prompts you to go, well, why am I doing it? Right? Which goes to the healing part of it,
Mm-hmm.
which, can be due to, childhood trauma or a past karmic, thing that you're trying to work out,
Yeah.
or it could be a multitude of different sources that cause the trauma, which I hate to use the word trauma because it's got such a negative connotation on it, but an event that happened in your life that was the building block or foundation of how you cope with that situation,
Mhm. Or
right?
past life.
So,
I have to add that in there. Or past life.
yeah,
Because that's
yeah,
why I say like there's always and and I'm not trying to make this like I don't knock religion like I am a Christian, but I do believe that we have past lives. I do believe that we're gonna have future lives. Like I really don't want to get into religion, but I think that because of that, that's why you're always gonna be healing because somewhere in your past life you dealt with some shit that you got to
yeah.
deal with in your current life,
Or
and
a
that's
past life before that, or a past life before
yeah,
that.
or
And again,
before
it all
that.
goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the quantum physics part of it, and energy cannot be destroyed, it just gets displaced.
Hmm.
And so, but again, we can kind of go down that rabbit hole in another episode,
Yeah.
but like absolutely. So it but it's all about becoming aware of it and going, "Oh, you know what?" And it goes back to that awakenness, right? When you awaken to, and it's just an awareness, right? It's an awareness of yourself and being self-aware and saying, "Gosh, when this happens, I always tend to do that. I wonder why that is."
Yeah.
And then it's like, "Oh," and either you come to that epiphany on your own or you wind up working with someone or reaching out to someone um who gives you like a little peek into, "Oh, shit. I could, yeah, that's definitely a contributor to that,"
Yeah.
and it helps you then say, "Oh," so the next time you encounter that, like you said, it's all about managing your emotions and finding out a way to, make decisions and deal with different things from a place of fact outside rather than a place of emotion. Um, and I think that just really helps us, like, because we all do it. I mean, even people who are more leveled up than you and I,
Yeah.
you still encounter moments of contrast. It's just you recover more quickly from them because you're like, "Hey, yeah, no, we're not doing that
Yeah.
because
Like,
that
oh, I
doesn't work
remember I
well."
remember what worked last time, so here we go. Done.
Yeah.
Fixed. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so before we wrap this up, what what are your future goals? Like I know we kind of touched on it, but
Yeah, I think it's just about educating, it's really just taking the things that we learn every day
mm,
along the way. Because I definitely know I'm constantly on like a sponge. Like I'm constantly looking at like different outlets and different things. And like my latest thing I've been looking into is Qigong and trying to figure out, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's kind of like Tai Chi
mhm.
type thing.
Interesting.
It's all about
Interesting.
like energy and your body movements and how it helps just balance all of your chakras and different things and aligns the body's it just aligns the body and helps with all different sorts of aspects. But
Well, I'm
anyway,
excited to learn about that.
yeah, so just different things like that. So I think it's really just that's what I kind of thought about when we said we were going to do this was just bringing people into our conversations like we used to do in the office, but
Yeah.
just a farther reach. And maybe at some point we get comments from listeners
Mm.
and can further elaborate on, either their perspective or a question that they have, and again just kind of steering them in the right direction, or not really the right direction but a direction
Yeah.
that will take them to whatever they need at that time. I think that's kind of what I see, and just opening the doors or looking behind the curtain.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love it. And I think that we both kind of have the similar goals there is like we just want to help people. And, if you do have any questions for us or comments or, something that you are wondering about and want to know more about, you can email us at the Cosmic Compass Podcast at gmail.com. I had to pull it up on my phone because I don't remember if I put podcast in the email or not, but it is the Cosmic Compass Podcast at gmail.com. And maybe we'll do at some point if we get enough, we can be like, oh, we'll have like a listener day where we go through the emails and just talk about, whatever. So yeah.
But I also think it could be also an opportunity for us, to have a listener that, can also point us in a direction. Because, like,
Yeah.
as we mentioned before, we're, newbies on a spiritual journey and always looking for new points of view or, resources to check out. Because the list of possibilities is endless
Yeah.
in how far that you want to get involved in it, and I think that's really great. Everybody's journey is different,
Hmm.
and as Planet Fitness says, is a judgment free zone.
Yeah. 100%.
There are no right or wrong answers.
But
There's
we're
no
not
passive.
hypocrites like Planet Fitness because they say judgment free zone, but then they have on their wall a big, you can't be a lughead with the big line through it. Like, I thought this was judgment free. So we're not hypocrites, like,
Yeah,
literally
yeah, yeah, for sure.
judgment free zone.
Yeah, no, it's all about just expanding your knowledge, and it goes both ways. And creating a good energy space that, if nothing else, brightens somebody's day. And Even if it's just one episode that resonates with you in a way that, like, you know what, I really needed to hear that today. Um, yeah. So just keep it easy breezy.
Easy breezy, lemon squeezy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope you buddies really enjoyed listening. Like I said, you can email us at the Cosmic Compass podcast at gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok. Obviously, you're watching us or you're listening on Spotify, but the Cosmic Compass, all of those. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the adventure ahead.
Oh, yeah. Bye,
All
everyone.
right, guys. Bye, friends.